All right, so we're here for the final. All right, so we're here to talk about the almost the last part of the study guide, the last part of the regular lesson. And so this section combined lessons 132 and 133. And we're basically looking at different medical interventions for hearing loss. So you looked into some hats, and hats are hearing assistive technologies. So these are going to be any devices that can be used to help you hear. Might be in loud or busy places, or it might be when you you might even be turning off hearing aids and using other devices like flashing lights to see that the doorbell is ringing or the phone is ringing. But anyway, you were supposed to look at 3 specific hats and their different uses, and I've listed a whole bunch of them. Obviously, hearing aids, they contain a microphone and a speaker. We'll look at those a little bit more on the next slide. One-to-one communicators, which are really good for using in a speech-to-noise deficit. So if you're in a noisy place, the person who you're speaking with can have a microphone that they speak directly into that has a radio frequency or maybe even a wire that you can temporarily connect to your hearing aid. And that helps with one-to-one communication. And then other things like the wake-up alarms, you can have devices that have increased volume for their ringing, or those flashing lights I mentioned earlier. And then things that you might be more familiar with, like closed captioning, having note-taking, a person to take notes for you, or using audio recordings, video recordings that you can look at again later. Okay, then you were supposed to explain how hearing aids work. So they're going to you're going to have the hearing, and there's different styles of hearing aid, but you're going to wear it in or around your ear, and they have 2 major components. They're going to have a microphone and they're going to have a speaker. So the microphone picks up noise from the environment and converts it into an electrical signal that feeds into the speaker portion of the hearing aid. And that's going to amplify the sound. The speaker amplifies the sound and sends it on to the eardrum. And then your regular hearing, hopefully, is going to pick it up. And it's louder because of the hearing aid speaker. Some of the advantages of hearing aids, obviously, it helps you hear better. So there's a lot of labor involved in being hard of hearing. And a lot of times, if you're hard of hearing and you're not using any hearing assistive technology, it can be easy to kind of check out if you're in a group conversation with people. I know my mom does that. She is kind of proud and won't admit that she might need some hearing assistance. And, so if we go visit family, there are times where she just kind of gives up and stops trying to listen because it's very wearing. But that is an advantage. There's less interference from background noise when you're using some of these devices, although they can amplify background noise and it's hard sometimes to figure out what you're supposed to be listening to. So that is a disadvantage. They don't block out the background noise, and they don't separate the speech you want to hear from speech you don't want to hear or noise you don't want to hear. And sounds from a distance. So if someone's calling you from across, the classroom, you might not necessarily hear them or know they're talking to you. And because they do amplify sound, they are increasing volume, and volume is one of the things that can lead to hearing loss. Using hearing aids can actually cause further deterioration, especially if they're played at they're turned up to extremely loud volumes. Okay, cochlear implants. Cochlear implants, these are going to be another type of electronic device. You're going to have I'll let you read this over here. It's going to provide the sense of sound if you are profoundly or severely hard of hearing. But again, you don't want to go this route if you have any natural hearing and a hearing aid is in any way helpful to you. There's going to be external portion that they surgically implant that has the receiver, and then a second surgical implant, which is basically a wire that connects to the cochlear nerve. And if you look at it here, okay, so here's the external portion that would be situated a little bit behind the ear, and it has a magnetic plate, so you can pick up the actual external device and clip it on there, and it'll stay on with a magnet. And that's going to connect to the receiver, which is going to be connected to the nerves. You've got this little coil from here that extends into the cochlea, and it's got these what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to stimulate electrodes. It's got electrodes in it that are stimulated by different frequencies of sounds, kind of like hair cells are stimulated by different frequencies of sounds. However, you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of hair cells, stereocilia. You're only going to have, depending on the device, 22 to I'm not sure what the current technologies go up to, but certainly not thousands. So you're going to get a very kind of a poor quality sound. It's going to simulate sounds without really sounding like actual natural sound. Okay, controversies. Well, cochlear implants are not going to sound like real sound, really. They're not natural. It's simulated sound. And people who've had natural hearing and they go to the cochlear implant once they have decided that they want to go that route, it can be they can cry from a great deal of sadness. They know what they're missing. And also people who are deaf, they look on cochlear implants as kind of trying to fix people that they don't feel need to be fixed. They feel that being deaf is, yes, it's a condition, but it doesn't stop them from living perfectly normal lives. They have their own culture and community, and some of those things are listed here, that there's a history. They have their own schools, and they don't want people to rely on cochlear implants when they do have a culture that they can take advantage of. And it can be offensive to people, some people in the deaf community. They feel that cochlear implants are basically, you're saying there's something wrong with you and we need to fix you, and they don't like that. Next question, which age group does better with cochlear implants? Well, obviously that would be children, because their brains are still developing. They have the best chance of forming those connections in their brain that make them able to use the cochlear implant effectively. And with adults, there's a lot of hit or miss to how effective it is. Some people are more successful than others with it. So, in general, you can say children do better. Okay, how effective are they at restoring hearing? Well, again, this is going to depend on the person. So the results are highly variable, although children have the best success. People who become deaf later in life do tend to do well because they already have hearing ability. If you're deprived of using the hearing centers in the temporal lobe from a very early age, then those centers never really develop. But if you became deaf later in life, but you were hearing for a good portion of that time, those centers are developed. So putting a cochlear implant you're going to be stimulating the same nerve that goes to those centers. Okay, when is it appropriate? Only if this patient is experiencing severe to profound hearing loss, and generally in both ears. If one ear is functioning fairly well, the synthetic sound that you get from a cochlear implant is going to kind of fight the natural sound they hear from the other one, and it's probably not very pleasant. When you do cochlear implant surgery, it is going to pretty much destroy any natural hearing that you had in that ear. And a lot of times patients will say, well, as long as I have any natural hearing, it's not worth sacrificing. Okay, let's see. Oops. Something happened here. Okay, so that is pretty much it for that section. And rewind your mind and ear disorders we still need to cover, but we're working on it.